Maybe you've heard of the blood type diet, maybe you haven't. But in this video, all we're going to talk about is the O blood types.
Not only is the
Most people think they've got blood type O all figured out. It's the universal donor, the trusty lifesaver doctors reach for when every second counts. End of story, right? Not even close. In the last few years, powerful artificial intelligence systems have combed through oceans of genetic records, hospital charts, and laboratory data. And what they've uncovered about type O is far stranger and far more important than anyone imagined. The familiar label universal donor barely scratches the surface. Hidden inside those seemingly blank red cells are clues about ancient human migrations, unexpected disease resistance, and subtle molecular twists that can tip the scales of life and death. Think about it. For more than a century, medicine treated blood typing like a solved puzzle. You were A, B, or O. Add a plus or minus for Rh factor and you were done. But AI doesn't stop at neat boxes or tidy assumptions. It hunts for patterns the human eye can't see, and in O blood it found a labyrinth of variation. A genetic story that stretches back tens of thousands of years and forward into the future of precision medicine. So before we dive into the basics, get ready to forget everything you thought you knew. The world's most plain blood type is turning out to be anything but. From mysterious evolutionary advantages to brand new health revelations, the tale of type O is about to rewrite textbooks and challenge how we care for our own bodies. Let's peel back the layers and see why the so-called universal donor is suddenly the most intriguing character. In the entire blood family, when most people hear blood type O, two ideas usually pop up immediately. It's the universal donor, and it's the most common type on the planet. Both are technically correct, but they barely scratch the surface of what makes O so intriguing. To understand why scientists and doctors are suddenly re-examining this plain blood group, we need to revisit the fundamentals and then pull back the curtain on a few surprising twists. Human blood is classified into four main categories: A, B, AB, and O, under what's known as the ABO system. These letters refer to specific antigens, tiny chemical markers that sit on the surface of your red blood cells. Think of them as microscopic name tags that help your immune system recognize friend from foe. Type A carries the A antigen, type B carries the B antigen, and type AB carries both. Type O, however, appears to show up blank. Its red blood cells don't display either of the A or B markers, which is why scientists sometimes describe O as the null or zero blood type, a cell with no identity badge. This apparent blankness is precisely what makes O blood so valuable in emergencies. Because it lacks those A or B antigens, it rarely triggers an immune reaction when transfused into someone of a different blood type. That's how O, especially O negative, earned the heroic title of universal donor. In trauma units, when doctors have no time to cross-match a patient's blood, O negative is the safest bet. It has saved countless lives simply by being the least likely to provoke a dangerous immune response. Here's where the story stops being textbook. For a long time, many assumed that O blood represented the original human blood type, the default from which A and B later evolved. But genetic research tells a different tale. Scientists now believe that O emerged because of a mutation in the gene responsible for producing A or B antigens. A section of DNA essentially lost a small but crucial chunk of its instructions thousands of years ago. In other words, O didn't come first. It's the rebel offspring of the ABO family tree, a kind of evolutionary remix that gained ground for reasons we're only beginning to understand. Today, O blood is the most common type worldwide. In the United States, about 45% of the population is O, and in some regions of South America, nearly everyone, close to 100%, is type O. This remarkable spread suggests that the mutation wasn't a disadvantage at all. It likely offered survival benefits that helped it thrive. Yet O isn't dominant everywhere. In certain parts of Asia, type B holds the crown. In pockets of India, A is more prevalent. These variations tell a fascinating story about human migration, natural selection, and how different environments shaped our genes over thousands of years. O's blank status brings medical perks and a few risks. Studies show that people with O blood are less likely to experience dangerous blood clots and may have a degree of protection against severe malaria, an advantage in regions historically plagued by the disease. On the flip side, O types appear more susceptible to certain problems, such as stomach ulcers caused by the bacterium Helicobacter pylori. Nature rarely hands out free passes. Every genetic edge seems to carry a trade-off. So while it's accurate to call O the universal donor, that phrase hardly captures its full complexity. From its origin as a genetic glitch to its global rise and unique health quirks, type O is far more than a blank slate. And as we'll see next, the story only gets stranger when we add cutting-edge technology into the mix. The worldwide map of blood types looks less like a neat chart and more like a patchwork quilt, with dramatic regional differences that reveal how humans migrated, adapted, and survived. Type O may be the most common blood type overall, but its dominance and the reasons behind it tell a deeper story about evolution and environment. Start with the Americas. In parts of South America, particularly among some indigenous populations in the Amazon basin, type O frequency can soar to nearly 100%. Travel north to the United States, and the number hovers around 45%, still a commanding lead over AB and AB. Cross the Atlantic to Europe and you'll see a similar pattern. O often edges out the competition, though the exact percentages shift from country to country. Now jump to Asia and the picture flips. In many regions of India and Central Asia, type B is surprisingly dominant. East Asia adds more complexity. Japan and parts of China lean toward type A, while neighboring areas have a healthy mix of all four types. Africa, with its extraordinary genetic diversity, shows an equally varied mosaic. Some populations favor O, others A or B, depending on the region and historical migration routes. These contrasts didn't happen by chance. They're living echoes of human history, migrations out of Africa, ancient trade routes, and the relentless push and pull of natural selection. Perhaps the most famous evolutionary force shaping blood type distribution is malaria. The mosquito-borne parasite has stalked humanity for millennia, and evidence suggests that people with type O blood suffer less severe, life-threatening malaria than those with other blood types. The mechanism isn't fully understood, but scientists believe the parasite struggles to form the sticky clusters of red blood cells, called rosettes, that can block small blood vessels in severe infections. In areas where malaria was once rampant, such as parts of sub-Saharan Africa and the Amazon, individuals with type O had a survival edge. Over generations, that advantage helped O spread through entire populations, a textbook example of natural selection at work. Malaria isn't the only disease that may have influenced the global map of blood types. Historical outbreaks of cholera, plague, and smallpox each exerted subtle pressure on the human gene pool. Some studies suggest that type B might offer certain defenses against cholera, possibly explaining its prevalence in South Asia, where the disease has flared repeatedly through history. Climate and diet may have played supporting roles as well. Communities that relied heavily on specific staple foods or faced unique environmental stresses might have favored one blood type over another through a complex mix of fertility, immunity, and survival. While disease pressure is powerful, simple geography matters too. Early human groups often traveled in small bands, and when a particular blood type was common in a migrating clan, it could dominate in their descendants. Over thousands of years, isolated populations amplified the blood type frequencies of their founders, a phenomenon known as genetic drift. That's one reason the Americas, settled relatively recently by small migrating groups from Asia, show such high concentrations of type O. All of this suggests that type O's blankness, once seen as a neutral trait or even a genetic accident, turned out to be a valuable asset in the long run, whether by helping ancient humans survive mosquito-infested wetlands or by quietly reducing the risk of dangerous blood clots. O provided subtle but consistent advantages that allowed it to flourish across continents. It's a reminder that evolution often rewards traits that balance multiple pressures: immunity to certain infections, reproductive success, and sheer luck in who happened to migrate where. The global patchwork we see today is the visible record of those countless survival decisions made by our ancestors, sometimes consciously, often by chance. Type O's journey from a single mutation to worldwide prominence isn't just a biological footnote. It's a map of human history written in blood. And as we'll see next, those same survival twists that carried O across the globe also shape the unique health trade-offs its carriers live with today. Nature loves balance. For every advantage a genetic trait provides, there's often a hidden cost waiting in the wings, and blood type O is no exception. The very qualities that helped this. Blank blood spread across continents also carry a mix of perks and potential pitfalls that modern medicine is only beginning to fully appreciate. One of O's most celebrated advantages is a lower tendency toward dangerous blood clots. Studies show that people with type O generally have lower levels of certain clot-promoting proteins, such as von Willebrand factor. That means a slightly reduced risk of deep vein thrombosis and some types of heart attack or stroke. For our ancestors, who faced injuries without modern surgical care, a natural buffer against runaway clotting may have been life-saving. Type O also appears to offer a measure of defense against severe malaria. As we saw earlier, the parasite that causes the deadliest forms of the disease struggles to form the sticky rosettes, clumps of infected red cells, that can block blood vessels. People with O blood are less likely to suffer the most dangerous complications, giving them an evolutionary advantage in mosquito-ridden regions. Yet the ledger isn't all positive. Research has long shown that O-type individuals are more vulnerable to infection by Helicobacter pylori, the spiral-shaped bacterium behind most peptic ulcers and many cases of stomach cancer. The same cellular receptors that make O cells invisible to certain immune reactions seem to give this microbe an easier way to latch on and cause chronic irritation of the stomach lining. O blood is also linked to a slightly higher likelihood of excessive bleeding after trauma or surgery. The lower levels of clotting proteins that protect against dangerous clots can, in emergencies, become a double-edged sword when rapid coagulation is essential. Beyond infections and bleeding risk, subtle immune differences show up in other ways. Some studies hint that O-types might be marginally more susceptible to norovirus, the infamous stomach flu that sweeps through schools and cruise ships. While the extra risk is small, it reinforces the idea that every genetic advantage carries trade-offs. For most people, these quirks don't require drastic lifestyle changes. A balanced diet, regular exercise, and routine checkups matter far more than any single gene. Still, knowing your blood type can provide useful context. For example, an O-type person with a family history of ulcers might be extra vigilant about gut health or discuss preventive strategies with a doctor. Type O's story is therefore a study in contrasts. Protection against malaria and clots on one side, higher ulcer risk and bleeding tendencies on the other. Rather than a superblood or a weak link, it's a carefully negotiated compromise, shaped by millennia of evolution. And now, with powerful new technologies entering the field, those compromises are coming into sharper focus. The next chapter in O's tale isn't about ancient survival alone. It's about how artificial intelligence is exposing layers of complexity we never imagined. For more than a century, doctors and scientists treated blood typing as a tidy bit of biology. Take a sample, check for the presence or absence of A and B antigens, note the Rh factor, and you were finished. The system was simple, reliable, and life-saving, a rare case where medicine seemed to have a clean, complete answer. But the arrival of modern artificial intelligence has shown that simple was only an illusion. Hospitals, research labs, and blood banks around the world have spent decades collecting patient records, genetic profiles, and transfusion outcomes. Individually, these datasets were enormous. Together, they're practically immeasurable. Enter AI, specifically machine learning algorithms and deep learning models capable of scanning billions of data points to find connections invisible to human researchers. Where traditional studies might look at a few thousand patients, AI can analyze millions, sifting through layers of information in hours instead of years. When these algorithms turned their focus to blood type O, the results were startling. What we thought of as one tidy category, just a blank absence of A or B antigens, turned out to be a spectrum of subtle variations. AI detected tiny molecular differences, faint chemical signatures, and rare antigen combinations that standard lab tests routinely overlook. It's as if someone tasted plain vanilla ice cream and suddenly discovered dozens of nuanced flavors hiding in the scoop. One of the most important findings involves O-negative blood, long considered the safest bet for emergency transfusions. AI-driven reviews of transfusion data uncovered rare but consistent immune reactions in some recipients. These reactions were previously dismissed as flukes. Now it appears they're linked to those subtle O subgroups. For hospitals, that insight could change how blood is screened and matched, reducing the risk of unexpected complications. The revelations don't stop at transfusion safety. AI models cross-referencing genetic data with medical histories have revealed fresh connections between O subtypes and disease resistance, or vulnerability. While O's protection against severe malaria was already known, the new analysis suggests that certain O variations provide stronger defense against cholera, a waterborne disease that has shaped human history through countless epidemics. Conversely, some subgroups may be more susceptible to viral infections such as norovirus, the notorious stomach flu, and even to severe symptoms of respiratory illnesses. During the COVID-19 pandemic, early reports hinted that O-types had a slight edge in avoiding serious complications. AI's deep learning review of global hospital data confirmed the trend but added nuance. Not all O blood offered equal protection. Specific molecular patterns, ones too subtle for earlier testing, correlated with better outcomes, while others showed little effect. Perhaps most surprising is AI's exploration of how O blood interacts with the gut microbiome, the trillions of bacteria that live in our digestive systems. Preliminary studies indicate that O-type individuals may foster a slightly different microbial balance compared with A or B types. This could help explain O's higher rates of certain stomach issues, like ulcers, while hinting at potential protection against some metabolic disorders. Such findings could eventually influence personalized nutrition or treatments that account for the exact microbial environment favored by different O subgroups. These discoveries are more than scientific trivia. They point toward a future in which a doctor might say, "You're O-positive with a particular molecular profile that responds better to this therapy or that diet." Instead of the blunt categories, A, B, AB, or O, medicine could soon use a refined spectrum of blood characteristics to guide transfusions, drug prescriptions, and preventive care. Artificial intelligence has a knack for revealing hidden complexity in places we once thought were straightforward. With type O, it's peeling back layer after layer, transforming a so-called simple blood type into one of the most intricate stories in human biology. And we're only at the beginning. Artificial intelligence doesn't just crunch numbers. It spots relationships so faint and tangled that even the most experienced researchers might overlook them. When massive datasets of genetic information, medical histories, and transfusion records were fed into advanced machine learning systems, blood type O suddenly looked less like a blank slate and more like a constellation of hidden signals. Here are some of the most eye-opening discoveries reshaping what we thought we knew. For decades, hospitals grouped every O donor and recipient under a single umbrella: universal donor. But AI analysis has uncovered a spectrum of O subtypes, tiny genetic and molecular variations that can change how a person's blood behaves. To the naked eye and under standard lab tests, these differences are practically invisible, yet they influence everything from immune reactions to infection risk. It's like discovering that the plain vanilla you've eaten all your life actually comes in dozens of subtly different flavors, distinct enough to matter if you have to stake a life-saving transfusion on getting the right one. These hidden subtypes are now being cataloged in global databases. Some differ in the shape of antigens that were once thought absent altogether. Others have slight alterations in the enzymes that build those antigens. Each twist may seem trivial, but together they help explain why some patients experience unexplained reactions even when transfused with the supposedly perfect match of O-negative blood. AI confirmed the long-suspected malaria advantage. People with O blood are less likely to suffer severe, life-threatening malaria. But the story didn't end there. When researchers layered climate data, migration records, and historical outbreaks onto genetic information, more patterns emerged. Cholera resistance. Certain O subgroups seem unusually resilient against cholera, a waterborne disease that has shaped human civilization for centuries. Populations historically exposed to cholera show higher frequencies of these protective O variations, suggesting natural selection quietly favored them. Norovirus susceptibility. On the other hand, some O variants appear more inviting to norovirus, the infamous stomach flu that spreads rapidly on cruise ships and in schools. Respiratory viruses. Early COVID-19 data hinted that O types might experience milder symptoms. AI confirmed that trend overall, but only specific O profiles gained a measurable edge, while others showed no special protection. These findings illustrate a classic evolutionary dance. The same mutation that shields one population from a deadly pathogen can make another more vulnerable to a different one. Another unexpected frontier is the gut microbiome, the vast ecosystem of bacteria living in our digestive tracts. AI-driven studies comparing microbiome data with blood-type genetics have found that O individuals often host a slightly different bacterial balance than people with A or B blood. This microbial mix may help explain O's higher risk for Helicobacter pylori infection and the stomach ulcers that often follow. It also hints at subtle metabolic differences. Some research suggests O carriers may have a modest advantage against certain insulin-related disorders. Though the evidence is still emerging, imagine the implications. In the future, your doctor might recommend a specific probiotic strain or a personalized diet, not just based on your symptoms or DNA, but on your precise O subgroup and the microbes it encourages. For over a century, O-negative blood has been the emergency room gold standard. But AI's fine-grained analysis shows that even O-negative donations can contain rare molecular quirks capable of triggering immune reactions in recipients. These reactions used to be written off as anomalies. Now we know they're part of identifiable patterns tied to specific O variations. This insight is pushing blood banks toward more detailed screening. Instead of a simple ABO and RH check, future blood typing may include a high-resolution molecular profile to match donors and recipients with far greater precision. The goal? Reduce transfusion complications and make emergency medicine even safer. AI doesn't just parse the present. It can also help reconstruct the past. By comparing the distribution of O subgroups with ancient DNA samples, researchers are mapping how different variations spread alongside human migration. These digital timelines reveal waves of adaptation, moments when a particular O mutation likely offered a survival edge during famines, epidemics, or environmental changes. One striking hypothesis is that some protective O variants expanded rapidly during historical cholera outbreaks in coastal trading hubs. Others may have surged during eras when mosquito-borne diseases like malaria threatened entire populations. Each discovery adds a new layer to humanity's genetic history, turning the humble O blood type into a living record of human resilience. The practical payoff of all this detail is huge. As databases grow and AI models refine their predictions, doctors could one day treat O blood not as a single category but as a full spectrum. Instead of saying, "You're O positive," a clinician might add, "with a subtype that responds best to this vaccine," or with a variant that needs extra monitoring for gut inflammation. Such precision could revolutionize transfusions, organ transplants, and even drug prescriptions. Imagine a future in which your electronic health record carries a unique O subgroup profile, allowing surgeons and pharmacists to tailor interventions with near-zero guesswork. Far from being a boring universal donor, blood type O is proving to be one of the most dynamic subjects in modern biology. Artificial intelligence is exposing the intricate network of genetic edits, microbial relationships, and disease interactions hidden beneath its apparently blank surface. The once simple letter O now represents a universe of quiet complexity, one that keeps rewriting our understanding of health. evolution, and the very fabric of human survival. The deeper scientists dig into blood type O, the clearer it becomes that the old one-size-fits-all approach to medicine is running out of road. Artificial intelligence has revealed that even within this supposedly blank blood group are dozens of subtle genetic variations, each carrying its own health implications. That insight is now rippling outward, reshaping how doctors think about treatment, prevention, and the next era of healthcare. For decades, the ABO system and Rh factor were considered perfectly adequate for transfusions. If you were O negative, you could give to anyone. End of story. But as AI exposes tiny antigen differences that can spark rare immune reactions, blood banks are beginning to explore high-resolution typing. In the near future, donating blood might include a detailed molecular scan, creating a digital fingerprint of every unit so hospitals can match donors and recipients with near-surgical precision. This could drastically cut the risk of transfusion complications and help hospitals use scarce supplies more efficiently. Precision medicine isn't limited to transfusions. Because different O subgroups show unique responses to infections like cholera, norovirus, or COVID-19, vaccines and antiviral treatments may one day be fine-tuned to a person's exact blood type profile. Imagine a world where your annual flu shot or a future pandemic booster is formulated with your O subgroup in mind, offering slightly better protection and fewer side effects. Drug metabolism may also be affected. Preliminary studies suggest that subtle differences in O blood chemistry influence how certain medications, like anticoagulants or antibiotics, move through the body. A tailored dosage based on your molecular subtype could improve effectiveness and cut unwanted reactions. AI's revelation of a distinct gut microbiome pattern in O-type individuals is opening another frontier: nutrition. Doctors already talk about personalized diets, but most plans stop at calories and macronutrients. Future recommendations could factor in your precise O subgroup and the bacteria it tends to favor. Someone with an O profile prone to ulcers might receive a probiotic-rich plan or a preventive course of specific beneficial microbes, turning routine diet advice into a targeted medical strategy. Organ matching is notoriously complex, with doctors juggling dozens of genetic and immune markers to avoid rejection. Adding detailed O subtype data could refine the process further, allowing surgeons to pair donors and recipients more accurately and reduce the need for heavy immunosuppressant drugs. As regenerative medicine advances, think lab-grown organs or engineered blood. Having a precise molecular map of O blood will help. Scientists design universal tissues that truly minimize immune conflict. Perhaps the most exciting shift is proactive healthcare. Instead of reacting to illness, physicians could use AI-enhanced blood profiles to forecast risks decades in advance. If your specific O variation raises the odds of stomach ulcers but lowers the risk of clotting, your preventive care plan might emphasize regular endoscopic screening and a tailored diet while easing concerns about thrombotic disease. Insurance plans and public health strategies could adapt too, focusing resources where genetic signals show the greatest need. The bottom line? The old ABO chart is becoming a starting point, not a final answer. Blood type O, once dismissed as the plainest member of the family, is poised to guide some of the most sophisticated decisions in modern medicine, from what we eat and how we medicate to how we fight pandemics and grow replacement organs. As precision medicine matures, your O-positive or O-negative label will be just the headline. The real story will be the unique molecular code hidden behind that single letter. Blood type O began as a genetic accident, a single missing step in the instructions that normally produce the A or B antigens. On paper, that loss should have been a disadvantage, something that quietly faded from the population. Yet here we are, thousands of years later, with O as the most common blood type on Earth. The journey from rare mutation to global majority is one of the great survival stories in human biology, and it reaches far beyond hospital transfusions. Geneticists trace the origins of type O to a mutation in the ABO gene that likely arose tens of thousands of years ago. Instead of adding a sugar molecule to the red blood cell surface, creating the A or B antigens, the mutated gene essentially hit delete, leaving the cell blank. Early humans carrying that mutation might have seemed unremarkable, but nature quickly proved otherwise. In regions where malaria was common, O blood carriers enjoyed a measurable survival advantage. The parasite that causes severe malaria struggles to latch onto red cells without the A or B markers, sparing many O carriers from deadly complications. That edge was enough to help O spread through ancient populations, especially in Africa and parts of South America. Over millennia, natural selection favored this blank badge, turning an accidental deletion into a global success story. As humans migrated, the O advantage played out differently across the world. In South and Central America, isolated populations show O frequencies approaching 100%, a living record of both ancestral founders and the protective effect against local diseases. In contrast, parts of Asia retained higher proportions of B or A, likely shaped by different pathogens and environmental pressures. Each regional pattern is a genetic breadcrumb trail of human movement and adaptation, mapping who we were and where we traveled. Climate may also have influenced O's rise. Some researchers speculate that O blood's slightly different clotting and circulation properties offered subtle benefits in colder or higher altitude environments, where oxygen transport was critical. While those hypotheses need more evidence, AI-powered data mining is now uncovering connections that were invisible to earlier generations of scientists. Look closely, and the global distribution of blood types reads like a story of human encounters with disease, famine, and migration. The high O frequencies among indigenous peoples of the Americas hint at a founding population bottleneck, while the balanced mix in Europe reflects centuries of trade, travel, and intermarriage. Each percentage point is a fossil of human decision-making: who stayed, who moved, who survived. Blood also intersects with culture. Traditional medicine in several societies has long used blood as a metaphor for personality or destiny. In Japan, for instance, blood-type personality theory still shapes social conversations and matchmaking. Modern genetics might dismiss those personality claims, but the persistence of such beliefs shows how deeply our identities are tied to what flows in our veins. What makes this story newly electrifying is the role of artificial intelligence. Until recently, scientists could only glimpse the broad outlines. O protects against malaria, maybe against severe cholera, perhaps modifies COVID-19 risk. Now AI is parsing entire genomic libraries, linking subtle O subtypes to everything from gut microbiome profiles to responses to new viral threats. These discoveries don't just rewrite our understanding of the past, they forecast the future of medicine. Imagine a healthcare world where O positive is just the headline. Your real medical identity might read, O positive, variant X47, signaling heightened resilience to one disease but a need for vigilance against another. That kind of precision could transform how we prevent illness, design drugs, and even plan public health campaigns during pandemics. Blood type O began as a glitch, a missing molecular tag. Through the pressures of disease and the sweep of human migration, that glitch became a global standard, proof that evolution often rewards what first appears to be an error. Today, with AI peeling back its hidden layers, O is once again a frontier, this time for precision medicine and our understanding of human biology. So the next time someone shrugs and says, "I'm just type O," you'll know the deeper truth. There's no such thing as just O. It's a living archive of our species' battles, journeys, and improbable triumphs, evidence that what seems blank can, in fact, hold the most extraordinary story of all. Even after all the breakthroughs, blood type O continues to surprise scientists. For every question artificial intelligence helps answer, two more appear, reminding us that nature rarely hands over the full blueprint. Current research hints that the ABO gene might influence far more than red blood cells. Preliminary AI analyses suggest subtle links between O subtypes and hormone regulation, inflammatory response, and even circadian rhythms. These connections are still early stage, but they raise fascinating possibilities. Could your blood type subtly affect how you handle stress, recover from exercise, or even how you sleep? If so, we've only scratched the surface of how one small mutation can echo through the entire body. There's also a bigger evolutionary puzzle. Some anthropologists wonder if global environmental shifts, ice ages, changing diets, massive migrations, played a hidden role in O's dominance. Others speculate about cosmic factors such as solar radiation influencing mutation rates in our ancient ancestors. These ideas sound bold, but AI tools that merge geological, archaeological, and genetic data sets may soon test them with surprising precision. As our knowledge deepens, so does the challenge of protecting it. Detailed blood profiles could become a powerful tool for precision medicine, but also for insurers, employers, or governments. Who owns your molecular data? How should society guard against discrimination if certain O subgroups prove more or less susceptible to future pandemics? Bioethicists are already debating these questions, and their answers will shape how comfortably we can use AI-driven insights without sacrificing privacy or fairness. Perhaps the most thrilling part is that every person with O blood is essentially a participant in a living global experiment. Every donation, every genetic scan, every long-term health study feeds the datasets that AI uses to refine its models. In a very real sense, the story of O is still being written by ordinary people rolling up their sleeves at community blood drives or signing up for genome projects. The lesson? Blood type O isn't just a relic of ancient evolution, it's an active, unfolding saga. From the tiniest sugar molecules on a red cell to the vast networks of global data scientists, O keeps challenging what we think we know about health, heritage, and the future of medicine. If the past century turned O from an anonymous mutation into a medical hero, the next may reveal it as a key to understanding life itself.